You need to learn a second language. It's time. It's never been easier. My mom wants to learn Spanish. That's great. She's wanted to learn for a long time, but she hasn't started yet because she wants somebody who can speak with her. I mean, that's a fine goal, but a really terrible reason to hold yourself back. 13.4% of people in America speak Spanish at a native or heritage level. That's more than 1 in 10 people. A rather weak excuse, if you ask me. Here are some other fun facts. There are 3.3 billion bilingual people in the world. That makes up for 43% of the population, a little less than half. But if you factor America out of that, that number jumps more than 20%. 67% of people who live outside of the US speak at least one other language than their native tongue. So it's us, we're the problem. It's not you, it's me. In the UK, 16 to 24-year-olds by far have higher rates of bilingualism, with a third of that entire age group in the UK speaking one or more language other than their native tongue. Now, I know that's the UK. I know there are a lot of factors involved, but I tell you this to make you feel inferior and insecure. Just kidding. But not really, though. I think for many Americans, the big question is why? Why learn another language? In America, you really don't need to know any other languages other than English to be successful. Yeah, that's true. You can say that. But it's also similar to saying that you have no interest in people who come from other places, or people who have backgrounds that are different than your own, or cultures that are different than your own. And yeah, you don't have to learn a whole new language just to understand another person. But if you're trying to connect with a person or a place on a specific, individual, personal level, it could be everything. And yes, it's also correct in saying that learning a new language is a journey that you're never really truly done with. But that's the fun part. Isn't the growth and the knowledge really what's valuable here? Now, aside from the fact that it opens you up to whole other cultures, whole other literatures, poetry, music, people, aside from all that, putting that on the back burner for a second, learning a second language works in your favor even on a physiological level. A multitude of studies have proven that language learners have things like better memory, better reasoning skills, improved creativity, increased attention span, and greater self-discipline to that of monolingual speakers. Isn't it crazy how a hobby can affect your brain chemistry like that? This is apparent even in infancy. A 2009 Harvard study found that babies raised in bilingual households were better at anticipating and responding to changes in their environment than babies from families that spoke only one language in the household. That's so insane. Being bilingual can do things like delay the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia because it keeps the cognitive mechanisms sharp in your brain. And if that weren't enough, if all of that bodily stuff weren't enough, you look 10 times more applicable to job opportunities with international companies and jobs with travel components. Countries all across Europe will actually pay you to move there for a year to 2 years and learn something. They'll pay you. Usually all you need is a high school diploma and at least a B1 of whatever major language is spoken in that country other than English. And that's ignoring the fact that it's extremely impressive to domestic companies, because it proves you will learn something inside and out that may or may not pertain to your particular living environment, to your particular way of life. Now, switching gears for a second, it is an absolute privilege that the language of the world, English, happens to be the one that I was raised up in, that I was born into, like so many other Americans. Yet when we travel, why is it their job to cater to us and our way of life and our language when we are there to experience their country? I see all over Reddit travelers and expats complaining because they want a local experience, because they want local friends. But it seems like they aren't willing to put in the effort to actually go forth and communicate with those people in a way that is natural to that place. we as travelers, we as expats are not willing to step outside our comfort zone for a second in order to find an experience that does not necessarily cater to the crowd of tourists. We are looking for something local, but we don't really want something local because that would require us to put in more effort. I'll say this again for the people in the back. Knowing another language can make traveling more enjoyable, more accessible. It can help you navigate unfamiliar places. It can help you learn about the local way of life and immerse yourself in the culture more fully. By speaking that language, you are showing respect and appreciation for that culture. You are a guest in this environment. Now, you don't have to be fluent in this language to take a week-long trip. My point is that if you can say a couple of phrases, maybe have a conversation, perhaps order your food in that language, that's really the bare minimum, people. It opens up a whole new world of relationships and experiences that you never thought were possible before this. So much of culture has been lost. When I go to Paris and my accent is a little bit off, they just switch to English with me. And it is so, I appreciate it, but it is so endlessly frustrating. Because I'm here in France to experience France. I don't need somebody to cater to me. Actually, like, it's very nice and I appreciate it and they put a lot of effort in, but now I want to return the favor. I want to put in as much effort as I possibly can. I always get the sense that when I go abroad, especially to heavily English educated nations, I don't get the real experience. And of course, you can't expect it to learn every language for every country that you want to travel to. It's impossible. But to put forth a little bit of effort would be nice, I think. We aren't bilingual in America because the attitude is that we don't need to be. It's frankly an ignorant attitude to take. It's a huge stereotype literally everywhere else in the world that Americans are uninterested, ignorant, and many times just stupid. And that all comes from the fact that we aren't willing to learn about any other thing that happens on this planet. And that's not true for everyone. Obviously, that's not true for everyone. But don't you think it'd be better to promote on a national scale more interest in the world? Currently, as it stands, America is essentially an island. English-speaking Americans, monolingual Americans, don't tend to watch television. They don't tend to read news from other places. They don't listen to music from other places unless somehow it breaches the TikTok algorithm, which, you know, is something, I guess. And the sense of personal fulfillment that you get from learning a language, from growing at that skill, it's unmatched. You did that. People are impressed. Like, to go to France and to be able to say more than bonjour or je m'appelle nanana, they're impressed. That, like, I feel good. Like, I get a lot, my ego just inflates when I go abroad and they tell me my French is good. But I think the root of the issue is that they don't expect me to know anything about France or French culture or the language or any of it. And really, the bar is so low. I mean, they don't expect you to know much. But if you can order your own food, if you are persistent and that you don't want them to speak English to you, even though they know, they can tell, and you know that your French isn't perfect, or your Italian isn't perfect, or your Russian isn't perfect, or whatever it is. It's the thought that counts. Prove to the rest of the world that we aren't as ignorant as everyone thinks that we are. Please, for me, please help me, please. And you know, a lot of people say, oh, learning a language is so expensive. It doesn't have to be that expensive. If you're interested in maybe one of the top 10 spoken languages around the world, I know, you know, that's gonna consist of English, Spanish, French, Italian, Chinese, Russian, you know, like the basic ones. But if you're interested in any of those and you're interested in traveling there, you can find millions of free resources online. I have done so many videos on the matter. I can link one. So many content creators have done so much on the matter. There's whole communities of us that are dedicated to getting you this for free. We want this for you. We want to start your journey for you. It's free. YouTube's free. Like, it's never been easier. You have no excuse. So when do we start?
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.